Hey everybody, so we are back here at St. Matthew's Lutheran Church. We're going to flip this around. We're back to do Irwin and Carrie Brown, my great-grandparents' grave, to get this one cleaned up as well. And hopefully it turns out as nicely as these other ones have. It is a little bit older, back in the 40s, whereas these other ones were either in the mid-70s or mid-80s. So let's flip this around. So here once again you see Howard Brown, Ernest and Ruth Harris, which was my aunt and uncle. He would have been my great uncle. He was the brother to Eva A. Miller. That was my grandmother. And this here is Irwin and Carrie Brown. I never knew either one of them. They, both had passed well before I was born. But we're going to clean this up, and we're going to see if we can get most of this lichen and the dark stuff off and make this look as good as these other stones. So I've been scrubbing on this for a little bit. I think this is one of those that's gonna take a little bit more. It's gonna take time for this to finally clean off entirely, because it just got a little bit more age. I mean, it's a lot cleaner. Probably when it dries, then it'll really show how much cleaner it is, but it's main thing here, more than anything, as much as I like to get this nice and clean, is getting off the lichen and getting that cleaner on here to hopefully kill all that material. I'm gonna spray a little bit more on here. One of the learning processes of this whole thing is realizing you're only going to get it so clean. I've been really fortunate that the ones I've done so far have really cleaned up nicely. Sometimes too, when it's wet like this, you don't quite get everything exactly the way you want it. Get a little bit more. I'll talk about a little bit. My great-grandfather Irwin, my dad really loved him. It was his mom's mom, and he actually is the one that introduced my dad to he's the one that introduced my dad to honeybees and the care thereof. And so my dad would raise honeybees after that. He's also the one that said to my dad he could not understand how my dad pulled off getting such a pretty lady. And he's like, I'm letting you know now, you better treat her well, because you're an idiot if you don't, because I don't know how you pulled that off. But he played a major role in my dad's life, without a doubt. He was probably even more a father to my dad than his own dad. And it's not a harp on his dad, it's just they had, you know, relationship issues and all that. And you know, but his Grandpa Brown, my grandfather, really meant the world to him. And he was a very important figure in my dad's life. And, you know, always talked about how much he treasured his great-grandpa Brown. A lot of cool stories from him. I think that side of the family, we were a little naughty at times, so they had some great stories of, you know, them as kids. But I know they did something. I'm not sure if it was my dad or if it was my great-grandpa Brown, but they had a neighbor who's an older guy, farmer, that they decided it'd be a funny prank to take his wagon, take it apart completely, and rebuild it on top of his barn roof. Of course, the farmer they did it to was not terribly amused, and they wound out having to go take it apart, bring it down, because, you know, they were stupid and talked about it, which is not uncommon for kids not to have the wisdom to hide their naughty doings and so on. But I think that did pretty darn well. Now this one with the upraised letters is I'm hoping once it dries off and you'll start seeing, it'll be easier to read the upraised letters. But I'm going to go over to the sides next and do the top. Yeah, that's better. I mean, it's still Howard's is a lot the same. It's sort of difficult to get all that stuff off of there, but I'll come back to these 4 monuments and the gravestones and use D2 on them to kill the last of that organic material, so I can actually this up here. I don't want to run out of water either. But I don't really know anything about Carrie. She had passed in the 40s, so, you know, about 30 years prior to Irwin passing away. There it is. But he used to come over quite a bit to Mom and Dad's place in Greenpoint, and I'm not even sure if I mean, Dad would have known her because he was born in 25, but how much or how well, I think he left around 17 because of the relationship with his dad, and he just didn't want anything to do with any of it, so he just sort of skedaddled. And I know it's one of the things that he regretted, because he felt like he should have been around to for his mom and his sister, considering the circumstances. But it's one of those things, we all sort of deal with things in our own way, and it's not easy, and it's something my dad never really talked about. I didn't know how bad, if you will, the relationship was between him and his dad until much later. And that's why, his Grandpa Brown was so important to him, because, he was someone you could count on. And, that makes a big difference. Alright, so we are on the last side here. Like I said, I will come back here. I'm going to spray D2 on these. This one especially needs it. Howard's needs a little bit across the top. Because like on these parts of the stone, I'm getting them, they're definitely cleaner, but there's still quite a bit of goopy goop on them. So they need quite a bit of work yet. It is definitely getting a lot warmer. But anyways, I would have loved to have met my great-grandpa, because he just sounded like such an amazing guy. He was a lot like my grandpa Elmer, my mom's dad. He was just just known throughout the community as a good and honest man, and that was Irwin. And that's one of those things that you look at is like, that's something I hope that can be said of me at some point in my life as well, that he is a good and honest man. Because I think there's no greater thing that can be said about somebody than to say that about them, to say, hey, they truly were a wonderful individual, somebody to want to emulate. That really is leaving a legacy. And that was my Grandpa Brown. And I mean, from everything I was told, great-grandma Carrie was an absolute sweetheart. She just didn't live long. I don't know why that is, the shorter life. Those are things I have to look up. On the Miller side of the family, I just don't have that information. But yeah, considering how dark this stone was, it actually has turned out pretty good. I'll have a better idea how nice it turned out once I see how the before and afters. That certainly helps. Oh. I get up here and but that, yeah, that's a lot better. Still got some watermarks, but that's actually, even the front has turned out, the bottom turned out a lot better than I thought it did. But yeah, it really is, it's a pretty stone, and I really do enjoy doing this. And you can see around the entire thing. This side got really, really good. The top got pretty decent as well. Back of the stone still needs, the bottom needs a little bit of work, but overall it's, you know, pretty stone. And like I said, I come back and do D2, and that'll take care of the rest of that and go from there. So I want to say thank you once again for coming along on another journey, homage to history. My great grandfather Irwin and great grandma Carrie Brown. History is out there, my friends. So when I do the D2 sprays, we'll come back to all these stones and see what they look like after they've dried a little bit. This actually looked really, really good. It just has some of that black stuff, which is basically, it's mold more than anything, and sometimes that gets into the pores of the rock. So I can't quite get in there enough to remove that. So the D2 goes in and in essence kills all that, and then then you wind up having a stone lighten. Probably the most notable stones are the marble ones, which are from turn of the century, between the 1700s into the 1800s is when that was the very popular stone, and it wasn't till probably the late 1800s where they really started to change over to granite. But nonetheless, it's just a great time doing this, preserving history, restoring these stones to what they look like when they were first put there, and it's honoring those that have come before us. So as always, I want to say thank you for coming along, and we'll see you all about town.